Hi and welcome to the Life of Tri podcast. I'm your host Andrew Owen. In this episode I'm joined by Dan Collins from TriTech Race Team, and we discuss the benefits of being in a team, whether that be in a physical team or a club, or whether that's a virtual team, which TriTech Race Team technically is. Dan goes into a lot more detail on the makeup of the team, but more importantly, the added benefit of having your peers around you to be able to ask questions, especially if you're new to the sport, which this podcast does tailor towards. But yeah, also that mental aspect, mental benefit aspect, I should say, of being in a team. Anyway, here's the episode. Let's just dive straight in. Dan, thanks for joining us. Thanks for reaching out as well to the channel. It was great to sort of connect with you and everything. But before we start and jump into the main topic of sort of the support network that the teams can give you and clubs can give you, tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background in triathlon, and tell us a little bit about TriTech Race Team as well, please.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. So background for myself. If we go all the way back, when I was young, I used to do quite a lot of swimming, speed swimming. Did the same as anyone else. Got a little bit older, fell out of it. And then when I was at work, I'm a builder by trade. I was at work. A couple of the lads were getting quite keen into running. Started goating me along. Oh, you wouldn't be able to run a 5K under 20 minutes and all of this sort of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I can, no worries. So I tried, failed miserably. And then, that started the whole ball game off with that. And at the time, I was probably about 25, 26, and I was boxing. I was doing quite a bit of running, but nothing like what we do with Tri. So then I started falling out of the boxing, and then I picked up the swimming again, fell in love with swimming back in the pool. And all I needed was a bike. And my local town that I live in has a Tri every year. And a couple of the guys were like, oh, right, get on that, see what happens. So I trained for that. I did that. And then that's when my love for triathlon initially started. And then everything's kind of snowballed from there. So over the last 3 odd years, I've really focused on sprints. Did the Nationals ETU qualifiers up at Bedford last year. Which went all right. You had Yanis on here a few weeks ago. I finished probably, I think it was about a minute behind Yanis or something like that. Yeah. Just behind him. We're in a different age group, but yeah, so everything's been going all right. And then this year I had some my goals sort of changed personally. Swimming was going to have to take a bit of a back step because I've got so much work to do on our house. I've got a wife, 2 kids living in a house that's like, a building site. So I was like, right, I've got to take some time off, get the house sorted, spend some hours on that. And what I found out that I ended up doing was spending more time biking and running. So I was just going to drop the swimming this year and go for, do a few duathlons.
Yeah.
And then I was training really well. I was getting, so my run times were coming down. This was about March kind of time. And then obviously everything happened. I was in good shape, and I was like everyone is, I'm like I need to do something. There's no races, but I needed to do something. So I ended up doing a bit of a last minute NHS charity run, which was 24 hours on my treadmill.
All right, yeah.
Which was awesome. I loved it. I raised it was just over $2,500 for the NHS. I covered nearly 145k.
Oh wow!
And yeah, my right leg just fell apart after that. But
how did you find that though? If because was your background, because you mentioned sprints and things, to go that longer distance, how did you find the step up?
Stupid. Like in my training, the furthest that I'd ever gone is a half.
Yeah.
Long ones, and I can do a half in like a training block. I do a half in like 1:28. So and then going from that and just thinking, I know, I'm just going to run on my treadmill for 24 hours. And like, I sorted my nutrition out and everything like that. It was all on point. I had no problems with that. It was just after the second marathon, my body started to give up on me, and that is purely the conditioning. Basically, I'm not conditioned for that. Yeah. It was fun. I'd do it again. And one of the things that came from that experience, believe it or not, weird things happen to your mind. When in the middle of the night, when you're into your third marathon, stuff starts going a bit weird. Yeah. But I started thinking of, like, I was on my own, and then I started thinking about loads of people being on their own all the time. Everyone's going through this thing at the moment, the word that we shall not speak of. Everyone's going through it, and I was on my own, so there must be other people that are on their own. And then when all the treadmill stuff finished, I spoke to the wife about it. I spoke to my coach about it, and then that's where the sort of child of TriTech came. And that's what we're going to slightly touch on. And basically, the idea behind TriTech was to create an online triathlon club that is purely online. It's not, well, I say it's not physical in any way. There are physical elements to it, so we can meet up at races, go on training camps, stuff like that. But general day-to-day, Monday to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there are people, especially now, they're not allowed to go and train with people.
Yeah.
They're not allowed, or their job and their family life doesn't allow them to get out the house and go and train at 7:30 on a Tuesday when the swim club trains. They can't do that. So I was thinking, there's so many athletes out there like myself that probably wouldn't mind belonging to something, but can't. So yeah, I spoke to a few of my friends and they were interested. They said, yeah, well, if you go for it, then yeah, we'll jump on with you, and we'll have like a tiny little nucleus of a team to start with, and then we'll see if we can grow it. So, and that's where it all began, really.
So, and everything you say is, regardless whether we're in COVID now, you're 100% right. That there are people out there that want to be part of a club but just can't for whatever reason. And it's funny because within triathlon we have three disciplines. Swim, bike, and run. And you've come from a swimming background. Which is great, because there's a lot of people that don't come from any of the backgrounds and then try and they sign up for a triathlon, whatever distance it may be. But ultimately, what a triathlon club gives you is the ability to learn off others. Mm-hmm. And where I came from, I don't have a background in swim, bike, and run. Don't get me wrong. I was a decent athlete growing up. I played a lot of football and rugby. I was fast. But then when it came to I ended football and rugby, I needed something, so I went to a running club, which my other half was part of, and what that taught me was some discipline, but I had to learn it from other people. And I suppose what I craved then was, when I saw people doing triathlon, I craved more information. And for me, that's one of the big things that a club can give you, is that opportunity to ask questions, and sometimes the silly questions as well.
Yeah.
So how does it work from TriTech race team's point of view, and the website's point of view? Physically, how does it work?
Okay, so you want to do your first triathlon, or you're thinking about doing your first triathlon. Maybe you've already signed up for one, or maybe you're a seasoned age grouper and you don't belong anywhere. It is as simple as going on the website, 12-month membership. That gives you money off your home nation membership. And then if stage by stage, I literally get an email through. I pop an email out to you, which has got all the information in regards to our partnerships, and also all the groups. We've got private groups on Facebook, open groups on Facebook, Strava clubs, and all of that. I mean, all of that goes out to the athlete. They click on the links, they join the groups. We've got a WhatsApp group as well. So there's the conversation. My phone is just, you know what WhatsApp's like.
Yeah,
My phone is just endless. But some, like you say, silly questions. Some of the questions, obviously for you and I now, you don't even think about it. But people are like, oh, do I need to wear shoes when I get out to swim?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do I put on underneath my wetsuit? Do I just wear underwear? Like, there's so many questions that people have,
And that's why we exist as a channel. You know, we want to do a bit more content on YouTube and things. But when I came into the sport, there's a lot of people out there who are willing to give information. Some of it you've got to be careful with, but I just found people overcomplicate things. But you are 100% right. It's those questions that, as a seasoned athlete, and you know, seasoned being, you know, you could be a year into it, 2 years, you know, but you forget about those little niggles or those little questions that you had at the very beginning. And shoes out of the swim is a really good example. And then every race is different as well. You know, just things like you know, picking up your race pack. You know, some races will do it the day before, some races will do it on the morning. And again, I think it all depends on the distance that you're doing as well. Things like race licenses. We take it for granted now that you go to a race. If you've got your membership with your home nation triathlon,
you don't even think about it.
Yeah, you don't think about it. No. But for someone who's on their first triathlon, it might be a try or it might be a sprint, Olympic, whatever. You just don't know those things. You know, and you will know this as well. When you get a race pack for a triathlon, it's bloody huge. It's a daunting experience just reading the race pack. And then within that, then you've got the various rules and about drafting and whether it's non-wetsuit race and things like that. So to have any sort of support, if you're not part of a club, I think is vital. So
one of the questions that we were getting quite a lot over the last week, because a couple of the people did Hever Castle, and there were some people. Obviously, you had Outlaw X and everything like that. It's been about the weather. What do I wear? What shall I wear? It's just things like that that you take for granted. If you're doing a sprint, maybe you think, oh, I'm just going to suffer it. Or if it's your first time and it's going to take you like an hour to do 20k on the bike, you're going to want to actually put clothes on, potentially. So it's all those sorts of things, and having varied abilities of members that anyone can ask that silly question and then it gets answered. I mean, there's a guy in the group that he's awesome. Like I look at him and I think, oh, I'd love to beat you one day. But he knows who he is. But he turns up at tries. Last season we did 3 tries on the bounce, one weekend after the other, short ones that are really close to us, and he podiumed every single one. And now through lockdown, he's been working on his 5k time, and now he's running sub 16s. Oh, wow. So he's rapid.
Yeah.
But then if anyone in the group's got a question about running, just put it on there. He can answer it. He's there. Like, take advice off someone's running sub 16s. He knows how to run fast if you want to run fast. And there's other guys that are crazy on the 10-mile TTs and 50-mile TTs in the group. And there's loads of different things. It's about bringing everyone in as a collective and helping each other. It's basically just creating one big family. And yeah, at the moment it's awesome, and everyone seems to be bringing their own piece to the puzzle, and it's working. And it would be nice for it to grow and for many other athletes to be part of it.
And for me, I mentioned earlier, I was part of a running club, and then members of the running club started doing Ironman Wales. So, my local sort of massive event, and it was one of my first events that I did. And but the running club, unfortunately, can only give me so much. And I and I still to this day, because I haven't done anything with it, but I longed for people who regularly did triathlon so I could get advice off them. But where I was very fortunate is, although I'm part of a running club, I do know some very good cyclists. And then on top of that, then swimming is probably my weaker discipline. But again, I know some good swimmers, and that, again, is invaluable. But the fact that you can just, offer, post a question is brilliant. And it's not to be sniffed at, I think, definitely.
So on top of that, what I've just to try and as like give a reason as to why you might want to belong, throughout the whole of lockdown, I've spent so much time trying to work on partnerships with the clubs for our club, and some of the deals and money off stuff we've managed to wangle surprises me with some of the guys that we've managed to get on board, and that is just to try and bridge that, because triathlon's an expensive sport. I haven't got deep pockets, and quite a lot of people haven't. So obviously we're trying to bring this family together, but also try and bridge that gap so people can actually get good quality gear at sensible prices, like 25% off Roka. That's awesome. And that what that does is enable people to get those things that they want to actually get at a more reasonable price. And like we were saying about meeting up physically, obviously we've got some race organisers that are giving us money off, so then we can actually turn up as a team, and it's not going to cost a bomb. And we've also organised some partnerships with coaching clubs in Mallorca, so we get money off as a team to go and train in Mallorca. So it actually becomes, probably not at the moment, obviously, it actually becomes more attainable to be able to go and do those things and start enjoying as a big club outside of the internet when everything else does clear up. But that's obviously enough about, like, sounds like a massive advertisement for TriTech, but one of the main things that obviously we were having a chat before you press record was the mental health side of things.
Yeah. But I think you're right, and we'll lead into the mental health side of things now. But the training camps element for me is really interesting as well, because it puts people in a situation or a circumstance that you don't normally get. And for, like, I don't know, 5 days or however long you normally go on a training camp, you just feel like a pro, because you for those days you train and your focus is just on training and getting that specific goal that you want to achieve for that week, and then all of a sudden you whether you've got family commitments, work commitments, friend commitments, just for that week is brilliant, just to be able to focus on that. So what I would say to my listeners is definitely check that element out if you're looking at an online sort of membership, definitely. Awesome. So from a mental health point of view then, Dan, I'm just thinking back to that time when you were on that treadmill at X o'clock in the morning, running further than you'd ever run before. And I in my mind I was thinking, fool. But then I was thinking, it was only 18 months ago that I did an ultra marathon doing exactly the same. Never really run more than, well, I'd run a marathon before as part of an ironman, but never trained for 40 odd miles. But yeah, just, and you said you came about that sort of like you just felt on your own. What I suppose, what are the triggers that think you took that moment of, I'm feeling a little, feeling lonely here. How do you then move that into sort of the business element of it? How did the idea come about? You might not have the answer to that question, I know, but
it's a tough one. Like I do remember, I've looked at local clubs and stuff that are near me, and obviously we said about not having my times with my family don't match up with other people's. So I've always had an idea of joining a club to be able to gain those little nuggets of experience that you can't just pick up when you're on your own and you're like new to triathlon. So then being on that treadmill in the middle of the night when the power tripped, right? I had a burning smell. The power tripped, and I thought, oh, my treadmill was going to die, but it didn't. It carried on going, and that was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was pitch black. I was by the French doors, and it was raining, and I could hear the rain hitting the patio outside. And I was in darkness till about 6 o'clock in the morning when the wife came back down in the morning. And that 4-hour period, so much stuff was going on because I was streaming the whole thing live, and obviously there's no one on that. There's literally nothing, and I'm just thinking, why can't I be with someone running? And then in the morning, I coach a guy, because obviously we've got tri-tech coaching as well. So I coach a guy that lives out in Holland, and he runs on Zwift and everything. And I was doing the whole thing, streaming it on Zwift, and he jumped on and come and run 5K with me. And that was all he did at my pace. He didn't, because I was not running quick by that time.
Yeah.
He just next to me, was messaging me, had a bit of a chat, and that made that, it was taking me about 40 something minutes to do 5K by then, but that made that time fly by. And those little things there, and then having been involved with like group races on Zwift, but you're always in like a peloton of people, or you're within a TT of other people that you don't know them, you don't know any of them.
Yeah.
So being able to bring that all together as a club and have people around you, like this morning we did an hour run on Zwift. A couple of the guys from the group jumped on, joined us. Nice, easy pace, zone 2 stuff. Awesome, it was great. So then being able to and actually start seeing that fruit coming from that idea back then, yeah, that's kind of where it come from. You say business. I need to make enough on it to keep the club running. I can't imagine I'm going to get rich out of this at all, but it's not about that. So,
and it's interesting you say that, because triathlon is a whole world I didn't know existed before I came into it. And yes, we've mentioned the word a couple of times already, but community, and the community of triathlon is unbelievable. I love it, and I get really passionate about it. I get really passionate talking about going to an event, and going to an expo or registration or just watching an event. It's magical to me, regardless if you are doing the event or you're supporting. So the whole reason I'm in triathlon is because of Ironman Wales in 2011. The first ever event that went there. It opened my eyes to what this event was. I didn't have a clue what an Ironman was. I had an inkling it was a triathlon, but I just went down to support someone. But the community is brilliant. And when you go to, like I said, any sort of event, and you just rub shoulders with other athletes, and everyone generally tends to be quite friendly. Everyone's there giving advice. Everyone's there just talking about experiences. And sometimes you may not ask a question, but if someone talks about an experience, you get something back from it as well. Yeah. Whether it's a race report, whether it's I'm just trying out a new piece of equipment or a new fueling strategy. It's all valuable stuff. And for me, I love that element of it.
Another thing with turning up at races, whatever Ironman it is, or a 70.3, or maybe even a shorter distance, and you're competing over exactly the same course as what the pros are. And I think that's quite cool. And then, especially at the moment, there are some races that obviously the PTO are getting involved with, that you're on the line with them. You set off with them.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's so good. And with any event that anyone does, I've had this in the group as well. where people are asking about a specific event. Has anyone done this event? And there's someone that has. So say, yeah, I've done that. And off they go. They can have a private chat and ask all the questions that they need to ask, and they know everything. They were talking about Heaver last week and the hills and stuff like that. And yeah, just have the conversation and they know everything. So then it's just opening up a world of information and everyone just getting involved with it.
And it's funny you say about, your chat today, or you coming on and chatting about this is quite apt, because where is it? Sunday, the 4th of October, and the London Marathon has been run today.
Yeah.
And so I'm still part of the running club that I was originally when I got into triathlon. And the running club is very social. And what's happened in our running club, because of COVID and because of local lockdowns, unfortunately, we've had to split into 2 branches. And we're a tiny running club. It's, we've probably got 25 members, affiliated members, that is, and then probably maybe another 15, 20 that flit in and out throughout the year. So it's tiny, but what we've had to do is split into 2 branches, because they're in 2 different areas which are in different lockdowns. And originally today we were going to have quite a big event where those who were due to do the London Marathon were going to finish in a local park to us. We would have had sort of gazebo up and probably done some food and barbecue and whatever. The weather's a bit shit, but we would have done that. But what's had to happen now is, because of the lockdown, we've had to support virtually, and the amount of WhatsApp messages within our group has gone through the roof. And people just posting pictures of the runners. They've picked routes which have gone past people's houses and things. So it's just, for me, I suppose it's touched on a little bit about what the TriTech can sort of give the community. That, and it's not just about advice; it's about the support element. And you correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
No.
I love it when someone says, I'm doing this event. Everyone says, good luck, hope you do well. And then they finish, they post their picture of them and their medal or whatever they want to do. And, message after message of saying, well done. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's awesome. And a couple of the guys have already been talking about, obviously when sort of things calm down a little bit, that we're trying to organise like an inter-club, I call it a training camp, or maybe like a training weekend. So we will go to someone's, stay near theirs, and they take us on their running routes and their cycle routes.
Ah, cool.
And that's kind of happened organically within the club. That's something we've not spoken about, but everyone's been talking. They kind of know each other, like exactly what we're doing, but they've never met, so they don't really know each other. Yeah. So then they're trying to organise these into things where they can meet up, or maybe obviously next season now, because it's basically over, or maybe some duathlons in the new year, where we can all meet up at that duathlon. We'll all be in our TriTech gear, so we'll know who's part of the club and who isn't. So we can all meet up. And I have organised with I'm trying to organise with some race organisers, that we can have like team racking, so that everyone that's from like listed as TriTech can be put on the same rack.
Yeah, of course.
So then you're all with each other, and it's just about joining forces and trying to have fun as much as what we possibly can, basically.
And then from a membership point of view, do you have people from all over the UK?
Yeah, it's not limited to anywhere. What I've tried to do, especially with the partnerships with the companies that offer our members benefits, I've been really fussy in picking companies that can only offer products or services nationally, and also potentially supply Europe as well, because obviously I coach someone in Holland, and there's been other couple of people contact me about that. So that's another avenue that we're looking at. But yeah, if they can supply our members nationally, then obviously there's more of a benefit for that person belonging to us, because they're going to get more back from it. So yeah, it does not matter, England, Scotland, Wales, wherever you are, if you're in the middle of nowhere, miles away from a club, you can belong to a club. If you've got the internet or a phone, you can belong. It's as simple as that. So it opens up, and being involved with a club opens up a lot of doors for you. Like mentally, physically, the mental side of things, and obviously the mental health side of things with being involved with a club. You get to train with other people, albeit virtually, and get a feel for where you're at and where everyone else is at. And you can ask those questions in regards to coaching, and get sensible answers, so it can make you feel a little bit better about yourself, rather than being stuck in your little world and just cracking on with training, getting your 10, 15 hours done a week and not really knowing where you are.
Yeah.
Am I getting better? Am I not? What are people's opinions of this and that? Because we all compare as humans, albeit we shouldn't, but we do. So being able to put ourselves in situations with other people of similar levels, or better than us, or worse than us, and knowing where you're at obviously makes you feel better that way. And then those people that are brand new and really don't know what they're doing, they've got access to endless wealth of knowledge to be able to improve themselves and make themselves feel better as well. I had a guy who's not actually, he's coached, but he's not actually part of the club. He's done his first try today. What a day, because it was horrendous.
Yeah.
The weather. He's done his first sprint try. It was swimming pool. But he did it. It doesn't matter about time. He's on a massive journey himself, which is completely separate to anyone else. He's like a little bit older. He wants to lose some weight. So he's had this drive to choose triathlon for some reason. He's got in touch with us and we're helping him along, and he's managed to do one, complete it. And it was so funny, because you've probably had this and I've had this. He's finished his first triathlon. I said, how do you feel? And he put broken. And I was like, cool. Go home, put your feet up, have a cup of tea, you deserve it. Blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm going to have a Guinness. And I was like, yeah, have a Guinness. That's cool. And I said, so what's the plan now? Because we never really spoke about what's happening afterwards, because he was unsure of what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he went, oh, I'm so hacked off with my bike. It destroyed my run. I feel like it destroyed my run. So next year, I'm going to do this. And I was like, all right, the triathlon's got him already.
Yeah. It doesn't take much. That's the thing. Well, yeah. It takes one race. And we have this conversation on the channel often about, because my piece of advice to anyone starting new is, don't go spending thousands on new bikes, new equipment. You know, either buy entry level second hand, or beg, borrow and steal off mates if you can. Because just in case you do one and you don't like it. But there's not many people that I know who take up the sport and then totally give up on it because they haven't enjoyed it, or it's just not for them. Because you might come away from your first event and, like you said, you may be broken, but it just scratches away at you, and you think, oh, if only I could have done that swim a little bit quicker, or if only I'd maybe trained differently on the bike, or changed my setup on the bike. It's definitely it just eats away at you, I think.
So yeah, he messaged me and he's like, oh, I'll join the club, and then we'll go from there and we'll attack next year. And I said, have a bit of time off. It's been a mad time for him with loads of stuff going on. So I said, have a bit of time off, and then we'll look at it again in a bit. So it's fun. It's so much fun. And
the thing is, right, your first triathlon, it's always going to be a PB anyway. So
yeah, true.
And I often say that it's, you know, take the learning, take the experience, enjoy what happened, regardless if it was hard or what have you. And if you want to continue, brilliant, but learn from it. Because my first event was a half Ironman in the Cotswolds. Lovely event, relatively flat course. one hill in it, and on the bike course that is, and it led me into a false sense of security because the bike was so flat. I came away, I absolutely blasted it, didn't really hold anything back, and then went into the run and had nothing really left. But I finished it, and I was like just over 5 hours, and I was thinking, oh, there's quite a lot I could take off that. So yeah, I've gone back a couple of times to that one. I love it. Absolutely.
That was my goal for next year. Moving up, I want to compete at sprints again. When and if the races happen, I want to go for the ETUs again, because I'm within seconds of age group, and I've just moved up age group as well. So I've had my age group birthday, so I've moved up into another age group. So technically, they get slower as you get older, right? Yeah.
Well, hey, that's what I'm hoping on, because I'm in a new age group next year. I'm 40 next year, so I should be moving up, and but I've definitely gone slower, so I've gone further in my older age.
Yeah, I think I missed out by about 44, 45 seconds or something, which is in regards to actually getting a place. Like, I got qualified time, but yeah, so I was a bit gutted with that. So yeah, next year I was going to crack that out, and I had a great winter on the bike training wise last year. And I thought this year's going to be the year, going to smash it. And then, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, moving on to next year. But I've got a bit of a bug for the distance after doing the treadmill thing. It's given me a bit of a, well, I can run that far. Like a half marathon's a doddle, really, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, for me, the further you go, all of a sudden, the challenge is not necessarily the time. It's the distance. And that's why I've gone a bit further and further. And, the year before last, I did an ultra marathon, and I was thinking, if I could go a little bit further. And then all of a sudden I was looking at silly races, which were, there's one which is the Dragon's Back in Wales. So you basically run down the length of Wales over 6 days. And I think it's like 300 miles or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Sounds horrendous.
Yeah, but I get that huge feeling of satisfaction as soon as you cross the line, no matter how hard it was the hours before. The moment you cross that line and you're allowed to stop, I love it. I absolutely love it. Brilliant. Anyway, Dan, thanks for coming on. How best can people engage? What's the website? How can they follow you on social media and things?
Okay, website is triatechraciteam.co.uk. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on Twitter. We have an open Facebook group, which is Team Tritec. We are on Instagram at Tritec Race Team. If you're interested or you just want to have a chat, obviously you can add the open Facebook group and see what we're about and have a bit of a chat on there. That's absolutely fine. Get in touch with us on Instagram. We can have a bit of a chinwag on there. And if you want to join, then pop over to the site. It's all quite self-explanatory on the site. Click join us, join, and then, yeah, that is the start of the journey within the community of Tritec, basically.
No, brilliant. Well, I'll when this goes out on the podcast and on YouTube, I'll put descriptions or links in our description, I should say, as regards to how they can catch up with you. But Dan, pleasure to have a chat with you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks for listening to the Life for Tri podcast. We really hope you enjoyed, and if you have any thoughts or feedback in how we can improve or any topics you want us to talk about in the future, please let us know. We exist to try and make triathlon simple, so your feedback is really important to us. Check out our social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe to those channels, follow us, like us, tag us into posts, just interact with us, and we look forward to speaking to you in the future. Thanks for listening.